Welcome back to the Bible Study Journey. It's great to have you with us again. Today, we're diving into Genesis chapter 40, a story that serves as a powerful reminder that God's plans don't just stop, even when life feels incredibly unfair. If you've ever felt forgotten, this chapter is for you. So, let's set the scene. Joseph is still in prison. Remember, he was wrongfully accused by Potiphar's wife and thrown into a dungeon. He's been forgotten by the world, it seems. Yet, even in chains, we see that God's favor remains on his life while he's there. Two of Pharaoh's high-ranking officials are thrown into the same prison, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker. One morning, Joseph comes to them and sees that they're both incredibly distressed. He notices their sadness and asks them, "Why are your faces so downcast today?" It's a small act of kindness, but it shows Joseph's character. Even in his own suffering, he's attentive to the needs of others. They tell him that they've both had troubling dreams, but there's no one there to interpret them. This is where Joseph says something profound. He doesn't claim to have the power himself. Instead, he points them to the source of all wisdom. He says, "Do not interpretations belong to God? Please, tell them to me." He positions himself as a vessel for God to speak through. So, the chief cupbearer goes first. He describes his dream. He saw a vine with 3 branches that quickly budded, blossomed, and produced ripe grapes. He then squeezed the grapes into Pharaoh's cup and placed it in Pharaoh's hand. Joseph, guided by God, immediately gives the interpretation. He says, "The 3 branches represent 3 days. In 3 days Pharaoh will lift up the cupbearer's head and restore him to his position. He'll be serving wine to Pharaoh just like he did before." This is incredible news for the cupbearer. But before moving on, Joseph makes a personal plea. He says, "Only remember me when it is well with you, and please show kindness to me. Make mention of me to Pharaoh, and get me out of this house." It's a vulnerable and human request. He's asking for help, for someone to remember him when they're back in a position of power. Seeing the positive interpretation, the chief baker gets hopeful and decides to share his dream. He dreamed he had 3 white baskets on his head. The top basket was filled with all sorts of baked goods for Pharaoh, but birds came and ate them right out of the basket on his head. The mood shifts dramatically. Joseph, staying true to what God revealed, gives the second interpretation. The 3 baskets also represent 3 days, but the meaning is grim. He tells the baker, "In 3 days, Pharaoh will lift up your head from you and hang you on a tree, and the birds will eat your flesh from you." It's a harsh reality, but Joseph delivers the message God gave him without sugarcoating it. Now, fast forward 3 days. It's Pharaoh's birthday, and he throws a feast for all his officials. And just as Joseph had foretold, everything happens exactly as he said. Pharaoh restored the chief cupbearer to his post, and he served the cup to Pharaoh. But he hanged the chief baker. The word of God through Joseph proved to be perfectly true. You'd think this would be Joseph's big break, right? The cupbearer is free. He's back in the palace, and he owes Joseph a huge favor. But the chapter ends with 2 of the most heartbreaking words in this story. The verse says, "Yet the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph, but forgot him." After all that, Joseph is left in prison, forgotten once again. This is where the real lessons of Genesis 40 shine through. First, God's gifts still work, even in hard places. Joseph's ability to interpret dreams, his divine gift, wasn't taken away just because he was in a prison cell. Your difficult circumstances don't nullify the gifts God has given you. In fact, sometimes it is. In those dark places that our gifts are refined and used in the most unexpected ways. Second, being made to wait does not mean you are forgotten by God. The cupbearer forgot. Joseph people will let you down. They will forget their promises. But God never forgets. His timing is perfect, even when it feels painfully slow to us. As Psalm 27 says, "Wait for the Lord. Be strong, and let your heart take courage. Wait for the Lord." And that leads to our final lesson. Your delay is not your denial. Joseph's breakthrough was coming. His moment of elevation to second in command of all of Egypt was just around the corner. But it wasn't time yet. He had to endure 2 more full years in that prison. Sometimes, God is working on other things and on us during the delay. So if you're in a season of waiting right now, If you feel overlooked, delayed, or completely forgotten, Genesis 40 is a chapter written for you. God is still working behind the scenes. Your story isn't over. The cupbearer may have forgotten, but the King of Kings never will. Stay faithful in the small things. Stay humble and trust the process, because God is preparing you for something greater. Thanks for joining me on the Bible study journey today. If this message encouraged you, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next study. See you next time.